Hey everybody, it's the Commodore from the Clan of the Grey Wolf, and you are watching the weekly Wringer series here on clanofthegraywolf.com. But as you can see, things are a little bit, I guess, more live than they normally are. Is that a safe thing to say, guys?
We're double the live.
There are two more. Yeah, I've actually tripled. There are three of us, although Rue is clearly in and out on this one. But in any case, we are in the midst of our 60-hour live marathon for charity that we do every year. In case some of you are out there that are watching this that haven't seen it or weren't a part of it, although I imagine that there probably aren't many of you that weren't a part of it at some point. In any case, we're here doing that right now, but as we did last year, hopefully something that we can continue to do is do a weekly Wringer that is live, where we can actually have some real comments in the chat, and also kind of I'll go through the posts kind of just live, rather than kind of having the notes and everything else. And we'll talk through it, and I'll still do what we always do, which is I'll go through some of the thoughts you guys have for the question for last week, which was about reboots. After we reboot the website, thought it would be good to ask a reboot question. Number two, then I'll give you my opinion, as I always do, about what I think the answer to the question probably is, or should be, at least in my world. And then we'll move on to the question for next week, which I think might have a chance of making you all a little bit dumber. Still want me to ask it? I didn't think so. All right, so anyway, great. So last week, I asked you guys a question about reboots. And like I said, we rebooted the website. The cat is tearing up the couch right now. We rebooted the website. It was not a very arduous process, thanks to the very, very, very hard work and wonderful creative energy of one Mark Chan, who doesn't deserve a ton of credit. He just deserves enough. Let's just put it that way. Ding. No, but he did a masterful job with it, and so it wasn't really a painful process. But let's face it, folks. A lot of the reboots that have come out recently, or the last couple of years, 5, 10 years, they have been very painful. They've been really, really tough. And I think if most of us sat down and we started thinking about the reboots, we'd probably start thinking about how awful most of them are, right? So what I wanted to do was ask you guys about the best of the reboots. Which would you say is the best of the recent reboots? And when I say that, I don't necessarily just mean movies. I don't necessarily mean television series or anything. I was actually kind of talking in general. Video games as well, obviously. So whatever you guys could come up with in terms of reboots, I wanted to understand what you thought were the best of the most recent versions and reboots that have happened. So let's get into the comments. I'm just going to burn through them, folks. So instead of kind of picking out the hits and having it all kind of written down and all that, I'm just going to kind of go through them. That way, maybe you'll get a little bit of my understanding in terms of thought process as well. We'll get a little bit of feedback from the Peanut Gallery back there, who currently look to be at least enjoying part of their dinner. And maybe even Mrs. Rue could make her debut on the Weekly Wringer this week. That might even happen. All right, so let's see. Ninto 55, which was great to see Ninto back after a while. I mentioned a couple I thought that were really good. And one that I was going to bring up that I thought I haven't really experienced, so I can't really speak to, but I would say would be a definite candidate if this thing worked out, which is the Tomb Raider reboot. Now, Tomb Raider's had a couple of different iterations, but rebooting is kind of strongly wording it until they basically said, look, we're going to go back and we're going to retell this whole story because it's gotten completely out of control. And, while I haven't played any of the newest content, I haven't got my hands on any of that stuff. All of the indications I've seen are that it's very strong. I don't know if you played any of the new Tomb Raider or anything like that?
No, I have not.
Did you play any back in the day?
I only played the very original Tomb Raider. Just a little
The
bit.
Duke, by the way. I assumed you all knew Rue, but I didn't know if you knew him. Anyway, Duke's going to be helping me out with some of the thoughts today. I think that's a good one. I really like that idea. And I definitely worthy of mention. Here's one that I love, though. Furious George, as befits his contributions nearly every single week to the Weekly Wringer. I thought this was a very strong candidate. Is the Mortal Kombat reboot that just came out last year. Just awesome, really. And I played it only at PAX East, but it was just mind blowing. It was basically the same kind of experience you would expect to get out of Mortal Kombat, except it was all really new and fresh and really used the technology very well. if that isn't a perfect example of what a reboot should do, then I don't know what it is, right? It felt like the original. It had the flair, the intensity, the gore, all that kind of stuff of the original. It just had really new technology. And how many of us wouldn't want to see some of the classics that we had from our childhood actually rebooted with new technology and actually executed pretty near flawlessly? I think we could all name a lot of those. In fact, I've actually asked that question as a Weekly Ringer before. So yeah, awesome comment. By the way, there might be a few cats jumping up and down here in the background, which is no problem. So here we go. Grateful Dead mentions the new Spider-Man movie, and I assume that he's not talking about the Sam Raimi directed trilogy from the first decade of the 2000s, but instead the brand new, more angsty Spider-Man. And you guys seen the new Spider-Man?
No, I have not.
No.
I haven't either. Is there a reason why?
Yes.
Avengers. They're like just made.
So Avengers is those are two very good reasons. Let's go through those. One is the Avengers came out relatively short order around that. If you were really sick of superhero movies, then you probably weren't going to go see Spider-Man. Number two, and I think it's also a good point. For me, they had just rebooted the series already. Why go see another reboot of a rebooted series that has been rebooted within like the last 10 years? So I don't know if I can get on board with that one. I'm not sure Spider-Man was really ready to go.
Not a good time.
Yeah, I'm not on board with that one. Okay. Akira VGA, our good friend from VideoGameAuctions.com, who is a frequent contributor to the Weekly Ringer, thank goodness, also said, brought something up that most of you agreed with, and some of you even said, I've even seen some of you talking about it on the chat while I've been talking here, and that is the Christopher Nolan Dark Knight Batman's trilogy. And I think that's something, all of us have seen at least one of those, right?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Even Mrs. Rue's seen it. That means it really has to have been, pretty good. So yeah, it's fresh, it's new, it's got good energy to it. It's not just another Batman. It really, I think, plays strongly to the director's strengths, which is something you don't usually find in a lot of reboots. They try to do something that they're not, and I think there are a lot of examples of that. Even within Kenneth Branagh's Thor, Kenneth Branagh's a tremendous director, but I'm just not sure Thor was really any good, because he was trying to do something I think that he wasn't supposed to be doing. What are your thoughts on the Dark Knight trilogy, Duke?
Really not.
Are you a fan?
To be honest, I just never understood the whole need for it.
Yeah.
The original Batmans were, I guess, kind of hokey, but
Original, like original
the
Michael
old
Keaton?
Michael Keaton,
Okay.
the old,
Not George Clooney.
it's clearly not Batman.
Okay, that's okay. You gotcha. No, not Batman. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I enjoyed the Michael Keaton Batmans. I think they were just a little bit before my time to enjoy them the way that I probably would have wanted to. Mm-hmm. But I liked what Tim Burton did with that, or at least with that angle, which was he was trying to make a movie that would appeal to adults, and not just comic book fans. I think the new Dark Knight series does that in basically masterful fashion. Don't you think?
What? Trying to do things,
He doesn't.
two
He
things
doesn't
at
care.
once.
He's just playing Secret of Man, and he doesn't really care about this at all. Anyway, so I agree. I think it's fantastic. Sonic Rose, in typical fashion, is going to talk about, I think, one thing I'm going to agree with, one thing I'm not going to agree with. One is the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle series that was recently rebooted. I've sat down and tried to watch it and realized, I'm obviously in a different part of my life than I was when I was watching the original Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, so I'm not sure I would enjoy that show if I were to watch it again right now anyway. But
Don't ruin your childhood memories and watch them again.
exactly. So there you go. Just remember it as being awesome. So it's kind of hard to compare. But the one I will probably, or not necessarily disagree with, the one I can't speak to is something that only Rue can speak to, and I'm going to give him no time to do it because I don't care, is My Little Pony. So the My Little Pony reboot, which I've heard is just fantastic. And I can't say I disagree with that. I've only seen a little bit of it. I've seen it in bits and pieces. I've never actually watched a full episode. But you know, I don't know. I was never really a big fan, so I can't really speak to that being a reboot and really making any kind of sense. Because at the end of the day, I don't know. I'm not really on that.
You're not a brony.
I'm not a brony. Do I look like a brony?
Yep.
Oh, okay.
Sometimes.
Good. I just wanted to let everybody know. Yeah. Let's see. Moving right along here. All right. Vulcan Assassin. Yes, the Vulcan Assassin, who is also a wonderful and incredible contributor to our weekly Ringer. I want to talk about brought it back down to a games level for us. We've been talking about movies thus far, except for the Tomb Raider example. Let's talk a little bit about some video games that interested him. You know, this one I thought was really good. And he talked about the idea of kind of rebooting almost a... instead of a reboot, I'll call this a renaissance of the two-dimensional side-scroller. That's really happened quite a bit now, and it's not necessarily a reboot per se because it obviously doesn't speak to a specific storyline that then gets completely rebooted back into retconned or whatever you can think about it to make it work. The issue is it's an entire genre of games that have really found a whole new home. For those of us that grew up with those kinds of games, they're really, really good. And I think people have really embraced the technology now to be able to support these kinds of games on new hardware and with new systems. And the capabilities are fairly easy to exploit. And I've said this many times on the Echo Screen Live and in other places. I love the idea that we could get what could amount to maybe a best of a Super Nintendo generation kind of game on brand new hardware. One of the reasons we love Snapshot, of a game that we played at PAX East a few years ago, was because it really was kind of a Super Nintendo experience on PC. So anyway, check that one out if you have a chance. It's a great, great game. All right, cool. Sorry guys, I'm just going to breeze through this. I don't want to talk forever, so let's keep moving some of this stuff. Here we go. Pyrrhic. Talk about Battlestar Galactica. Now this is interesting to me because this kind of brought up a little bit of, I think there's a little bit of a disagreement among folks in the comments about Battlestar. So before I jump in here as any kind of true expert, because I've only watched the pilot. Even though I've watched it twice, because for some reason I keep thinking I'll just watch it and then just jump right into the show, and I just haven't done it. I'm not saying it's not even a good cliffhanger. I just never really had I guess I don't know. I don't know why. They're even all on Netflix now. It's just, all you have to do is go click.
Yep. The entire thing
Anyway.
on Netflix just recently.
I'll just defer to the Battlestar Galactica people in here. What do you think? Among the best of the reboots recently?
Yep.
Okay.
Oh, awesome.
And
Yeah.
even Mrs. Ruth says so.
Amazing.
That therefore it is certified fresh.
Amazing show.
Starbucks doesn't need anybody.
All
She
right.
didn't call anybody.
If you can ignore Starbucks' annoyingness
Okay.
in the reboot,
I probably could.
it is amazing.
Aw. I love Kara Thrace.
She
So I think Vulcan Assassin, talked a little bit about this, and I agree with his opinion as well. That I think here's one where you wanted to reboot a series that wasn't even really that wonderful to begin with. I thought Battlestar was a tremendous premise back in the 70s, but it wasn't, or 70s and 80s. But it was not. It wasn't really very good. Like, I guess I can say that, right? It's not very good. It wasn't great.
well, it's 70s.
Well, yeah, I mean, it was very expensive.
For its
Had a lot of impressive effects, special effects, because that's what they thought was going to, make it really, really popular. But it ended up being really expensive and kind of not good, kind of dumb. It's very typical of TV series back then. It wasn't kind of new. Battlestar Galactica, the new version, kind of embraces a lot of the television tendencies that we see in television now, which is really that it's kind of cinematic quality and cinematic story just drawn out over the course of lots of episodes, right? Because TV, I think at that point was still considered a much lower art form